Hello, and welcome to the second video of the Game of the Week series. Today's game, what we are going to take a look at, was played also in the Polish League. It's a game between Pehac Jergus and Vincent Keimer. So let's see how the game went. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, c5, c takes d5, knight d5, e4, knight c3, bc3. So this is the so-called Semi-Tarrasch. There is another move order for this, obviously. So in our repertoire, it happens after the moves knight c3, d5, c takes on d5, knight d5, e4, knight c3, bc3, c5, and knight f3. This is also possible move order. So bc3, c takes d4, cd, bishop b4, trading the bishop. So this is a very solid opening for black, already trading two minor pieces. Castle, so he has a little bit less space, and also white has a majority in the center. But thanks to this exchange of minor pieces, we cannot really say that black is struggling because he has less space. So in this game, the variation with bishop d3 was played, knight c6, bishop d2, bishop c2, sorry. So this is a fairly common line, was also played by Carson, Dingley Ran. So yeah, it's a pretty normal system. Queen e7. So basically here black has to make a choice. Other move is to play queen a5. Takes on a5, king d2 is just a completely different type of game. I believe white is slightly better in these endgames, but it could be rather a topic of some other video. So in this game, Keimer went queen e7, completely normal. Short castle, rook d8. So he's putting pressure on this d4 pawn. So queen e3 going out from the pin, very logical. b6, rook c1, bishop b7. So both sides are developing, rook d1 and rook a c8. So basically, up to this moment, everything was pretty logical, and it was even played before. So nothing spectacular, and even the next move is pretty standard. So it's h4 from white. So of course, what is white's idea in such position? It's either to push e5, so to open the diagonal of this bishop towards the king, and to create some sort of an attack there. Like it's very often connected with moves like h4, h5, or knight g5. So this is one of the ideas. Another idea is to play at some moment d5, and after ed to play e5. So in this way, white sacrifices a pawn, but creates a very dangerous majority on the king side. Normally, this plan is very effective when the knight can be installed on d4. So even blockading that pawn, closing the bishop's diagonal, and maybe the knight can go towards f5. So this is a typical pawn sacrifice, which is good to know. And once again, these ideas with h4, queen f4, let's say, are still there. So even if just down a pawn, white has great compensation. So white played h4 in this game, and black went h6. So the game which they were following was actually played in Weikanzee 2020, Carlsen against Jeffrey Zhong. So in that game, black played knight a5, which is also pretty logical. Here bishop d3, let's say, rook takes on c1 is some move which I looked at. Actually, in that game, h6 was played by black. And the same idea or same motif happened like in our game. So Carlsen played g4. So despite being same side castling, white is actually starting an attack against black's king. and knight c6. And here I believe there is a possible improvement uh, for white. So in the game, Carlsen went bishop b1, but after queen d7, it was not so easy to for him to progress because all this pressure on the d4 pawn, and later they traded rooks, and it was even Carlsen who had to be a little bit careful, I believe, at some moment. So instead of bishop b1, there is an interesting idea of switching plans. So basically, with this h4 g4, white is saying that he did not really burn any bridges. So like, okay, he gains some space in the king side. G5 is always in the air, and this bishop actually has a very nice square on g2 now. So normally in this semi-Tarrasch complex, it's always I mean, not necessarily a problem, but a big question where to put this bishop. So all e2, d3, c4, b1 has its, drawbacks, so to say, and this g2 looks like actually pretty nice. It can help with this d5 to create a passed pawn, and let's say after trade, some knight d4, knight c6 idea, can be nicely supported by the bishop. So, and it's pretty hard to find counterplay for black in this position. The engine likes it for white. So this was the previous game played in this variation. So in this game, Keimer went h6, which is kind of a move that black is always making. It's just a useful move, stopping any knight g5 ideas, opening the back rank, and really, like, it's not easy to suggest any kind of constructive plan for black besides just making this waiting move and then looking for trades on the c file. So h6 and g4 was played by Pekhat. So again, this is kind of the main theme of this video, that this idea I wanted to show. It works pretty well, actually. So once black plays this h6, this g4 is a very dangerous idea, despite once again the fact that when this flank attacks are normally successful, when the center is closed. I mean, here we absolutely cannot say that the center is closed. It's not closed at all. So if black would play e5 at some moment and white plays d5, then it would be closed, but it's absolutely not the situation. But since white has very good control over the squares and black has no defenders around the king, so like these pieces are a little bit far, then this idea is again pretty dangerous. And what is good to understand about it, that it's not anything drastic. So it's not like there is no way back for white, just to play a positional game after this move. So it's not that easy to target this pawn. So g4, rook c7, g5, very logical, going further with this idea, hg, hg, and rook dc8. So it's very clear what Keimer wants. I mean, he wants to trade pieces. So probably move the knight somewhere in the next move. I mean, most probably b4, that looks like the most active, and then attack this bishop, trade rooks, and the less pieces, the less attacking power against the black king. And this was actually a very critical moment of the game. And to find the best move here is extremely difficult, and it's a very deep move, so it's absolutely not easy. So in the game, the most logical move was played, which is g6. So just to go forward with this idea of creating weaknesses against the black king and attack on the king side. So it's very logical, but it doesn't really give advantage for white. So the best move is a very sophisticated bishop a4. So what's the idea of this move? I mean, so first of all, it prevents exchange of both rooks. So at best scenario for black is to change one pair now and not both. And that's very good for white because, I mean, here this rook can have two functions, like, for example, to help with the d5 break, or to play king g2 and switch over to h1 and then to help the attack. So it's really good to help it's really good to have this rook for the attack as well. And so let's see a few moves. So if black goes knight d8, then rook takes c7, rook c7, and what is extremely important here, that basically black is stuck and black is waiting for g6. So once g6 is coming, then this knight suddenly has a job because it can go to f7 after black takes or waiting for capture, and then knight takes f7. But as long as white is not doing g6, this knight is just waiting for g6, which is horrible. So that's doing nothing. I mean, rook and queen also just in defensive position. So white plays, for example, bishop b3, and what I already said is king g2, rook h1 idea. You know, keeping d5 on the air, that's also a very dangerous idea. Maybe playing queen f4 at some moment, so to control d6 square, so the pawn cannot be blockaded, or for example, this king g2, rook h1, queen f4, queen h4, like such a simple plan, but so dangerous, like, very hard to create counterplay with such pieces. So that would have happened in case of knight d8. I looked at queen before. If the queen disturbs this bishop, then actually we go bishop b3. So now g6 is a big idea. Black has to react, knight a5. Again, we trade a pair of rooks, and now g6. So even without this bishop on b3, after fg, knight g5, black's king is extremely lonely and there are many weaknesses. So the e6 pawn is very weak. Queen h3 is a huge move in the next for white. So also pretty bad position for black. So the main line I looked at is knight a5. Probably the most natural move, so not very passive with knight d8. So knight a5, again we trade, that we already understand. And now rook takes is better. If queen takes, then there is bishop b5. So the idea is to stop this knight c4 in a way, because if knight c4, then we just take, and it's very similar to the line I just showed. So we play g6, black takes, and after knight g5, basically it's already lost according to the engine. No defense against queen h3. So rook c7 is the best, g6, knight c4, so the knight has to come back to the game, and like very interesting tactical sequence is coming. So queen f4, knight b2. So basically black is forcing these pieces, forking these pieces, and white doesn't really have a good way to stop material loss in a way, in a normal way. d5, intermediate move with the idea of pushing d6. So this is very important. So if knight takes d1, then simply d6, and after queen f6, we just trade dc7, and the promotion of this pawn is kind of impossible to prevent. Bishop d7 is coming, and if the bishop would like to block, then the knight can come and basically kick that bishop from there, and white is going to win a piece. So e takes d5 is the best, and now rook e1. So it's very funny, because from one fork, the rook is going to another one. So like rook e1 is just asking for a fork, basically. So knight a4, so I mean also possible, but after e takes d5, queen d7, queen takes c7, queen c7, and rook e8. So this pawn is on g6 is helping with the back rank mate. So pretty nice line. And if knight d3, then there is queen h2 now, queen h7, mate is the idea with queen h8. So fg6, rook e3, d takes e4, and bishop b3 is winning the game. So now it's a check, black cannot block it, and then queen h8 is coming with a mate. So a very long line, and a lot of important details to see for white. So it was really a difficult move, but very instructive, that how basically this just trading a pair of rooks, keeping a pair, and in case of knight d8 waiting, and if knight goes to a5, then immediately going on the attack. So this was the correct way in the game. Once again, this very logical g6 was played, but here Keimer played the nice defensive move knight d8. And suddenly, since trades are coming, and the knight is getting close to the king, then there is not much of an attack for white. So basically the position is just very complicated, and black is fine. So gf7, knight f7, bishop d3. So here, for example, Keimer could have taken on c1 twice, and it is just equal, but what he did, queen f6, is also completely fine. Rook c7, king f1, rook c3, so black has once again very good play here, but the game remains extremely fascinating actually. So king e1. Basically, since white's king side disappeared, it's probably better to have the king in the center and hide behind those pawns than just standing on g1. So rook a3, rook d2, and g5. Keimer was playing very ambitiously, and from this moment on, I believe what Pekard did at this moment is absolutely remarkable. So he played, because this next move is connected with the super deep idea, which very hard to foresee that it will work for white. So he went d5. There are many interesting moves here. e5 is fine for black. g4 is fine for black with a complex position. So black has absolutely no issues here. He played e5, which is also good. And I mean, it looks extremely tempting. e5. And then d4. And it looks like that's, all of a sudden big issues for white. So the knight is hanging twice. In case of ef6, d3 is also attacking the rook, and the knight is still hanging, so pretty much white is losing a piece. So it looks like a big trouble. And so white had to foresee that in this moment he has to play queen takes d4, queen takes f3, sacrificing a piece, and e6. And after this move, basically, he had to see that, okay, everything is okay, which is, I would say, pretty remarkable for me. It's still just a full piece. Even if you take on a f7, it can be a pawn down in some cases. So it's maybe there should be some move for black to stabilize, but actually no. Computer is just saying zeros that black doesn't have better than a draw. I mean, that he could have achieved in many different ways. So for example, if bishop d5 takes, king f7, bishop c4, so both kings are very weak, so this way of perpetual would have been logical end to the game. So Keimer went queen h1, bishop f1. Again, here he could have made sure that the game is a draw by playing, for example, queen e4 check. So trading the queens, and okay, white has a nice move here. If ef7, then of course it's just a pawn down, but white has a very nice bishop c4, king g7, and even here white can play rook d7, so it will eventually end as a draw. But again, black had the chance to make a draw also with knight d6 at this moment. Actually, maybe this is the easiest. If black wants the draw, so force the queen away from protecting the e4 square, and after queen e4, let's say bishop e2, queen h1 is a perpetual, and white cannot play rook e2 because after queen d1, I mean, this would be amazing endgame, but there is unfortunately bishop f3 winning the rook. So I mean, Keimer was too ambitious at this moment, so he played rook f3, and once again a very nice move. So there are many moves for white at this moment, but what white plays here is like very challenging. It's queen c4, so keeping all the options like ef7, maybe sometimes e7, e8, maybe sometimes rook d8 and then rook d7. So very tough position to play in time trouble. So black played b5, and here queen b5. It was not the most precise, but once again, position is extremely complicated, so it's hard to blame the players for not playing the best moves here. So ef7 was the winning move according to the computer, but after queen b5 it was still pretty much super hard to defend for black. It went rook f6, ef7, rook f7, queen g5. So white is up a pawn and his king is actually safer thanks to this f pawn. King h7, rook d3. And after they are making the time control here, basically white will just have a decisive attack. So he starts to give checks. King g5, king g8. And now rook e1 is extremely unpleasant with the threat of queen g6 checkmate, bishop e4, rook e4, and black resigned. So normally what is considered to be a solid and safe opening for black, it went really, really sharp. And so the main things from this game to learn, I believe, is that there is this idea with h4, and normally once h6 is happens, so I mean without h6 g4 is a little bit more risky, so there is no hook for white's attack. After h6 there is this g4 idea, and yeah, this idea with to play for g6 is super dangerous. Just you have to find the right moment, and you know, if the knight, this bishop a4 is a really deep move from the computer, and it gives very good chances for white. All right, so I hope you like the video. If you want, you can comment on it or ask questions, or as I said, if you have some topic which you would like to be covered, then feel free to suggest it. And yeah, so far I forgot to say it for the last couple of videos. So at this moment, our course with Angelica, what we did on 1d4 is on sale. So with a pretty big discount. So in the you can find the link in the description. So please feel free to check it out. So you have now some idea which openings we cover, and in which way we would like to lead the game. And also in the description there is a link when there is a 3-hour video which is completely free, so you can just see Angelica explaining different concrete variations which are happening in our course. All right, so that's for now. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you like the video.